All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the HoneyBook 101 webinar this morning. My name is Marika from HoneyBook. So HB 101, who is this webinar for? Well, based on what you guys have already been talking about, sounds like it is meant for you guys. It is absolutely perfect for anyone who's just getting started with HoneyBook because what we're going to do, as you might imagine, is really go over a lot of the basics. But it's also great for anyone who has been using the system for a bit, maybe just needs a little bit of a refresher. So that in mind, what are we going to talk about today? So our agenda, we're going to start with kind of going over the dashboard, which is what we're looking at now, just so you can sort of orient yourself and understand what's there and how to get where you want to go. We will talk about projects in HoneyBook, that kind of foundational element of that everything else is sort of built upon in HoneyBook. So projects, what they are and how to manage them and how they work their way through what we call our project pipeline. We will look at files in HoneyBook. So we're not going to create every single file type today, but I'll talk about what we do have available, and then we'll actually go through creating a proposal. So that's kind of a combination of an invoice and a contract in HoneyBook. So that proposal will give you a sense of a lot of different things in one. We will talk about templates, which in HoneyBook are basically just sort of, the frameworks of all of our different file types or emails or pricing packages that you might use over and over in exactly the same format or similar versions of. So they're real time savers. You can just, start with a template and work off of that instead of needing to start from scratch in all of these various ways every single time. And then we're going to finish with some general, just sort of account setup, where to go to set up your, change your password if you need, put in your bank information, your branding, so your imagery, logos, colors, things like that. And then, of course, we will finish with questions. So again, feel free to send those my way over the course of this, and we will get to them at the end. Alrighty, so quick step back. What is HoneyBook? HoneyBook is an all-in-one platform to manage your... It's our little elevator pitch, but it really is true. We really strive to make sure that there's little elements of pretty much everything you'll need to manage your business and manage your projects / jobs or assignments, whatever you call them, sort of from end to end. So for you as the vendor, what that means is everything from the basics of creating invoices that you can send to your clients and get paid directly through those invoices through HoneyBook, sending contracts and getting those electronic signatures back right away, all the way through some more advanced stuff like automating collection of inquiries on your website and directing them right into HoneyBook, or automating workflows once those inquiries come in, so you can automatically send an email to someone that submits an inquiry or send a brochure, things like that. And then there's, bookkeeping tools, financial analytics, calendaring. So we try to have a little bit of everything in here so that you don't need to bounce from, platform to platform and have finances over here and email over there and invoices over here. Try to really have everything in one place for you. And similarly for your clients, it's a smaller version of that. They have everything in one place. They don't need to go over here to pay and over here to view their invoice and over here to email you. It's all going to be in one place. They're going to get these beautifully designed, easy to manage files that they can really quickly and easily take action on, whether that's making a payment or adding a signature. And then they'll always be able to come back to kind of their side of HoneyBook and review any files or communications with you. So for them, it's all in one place too. Hopefully it makes life much more streamlined and fun for everyone involved. So what you're looking at now is your main HoneyBook dashboard. So this is sort of like the command center of HoneyBook. When you log in, this is where you'll be dropped. And as you can see, it sort of has these shortcuts to a lot of different areas of the platform. Really based on sort of recent activity in your account. So we want to say like, hey, take a look at this. This is what's going on today. So on the left here, you got your projects, any new inquiries that have come in. So projects that you haven't responded to yet. We have any projects with new activities. You can quickly jump over into those. Stuff on your calendar, going on in your bookkeeping, tasks, reports, etc. So you can really click through this and really quickly get to some of that recent stuff that's going on in your account, anything that's relevant for the day. Always keep an eye out for our little search icon here in the left. This will make it really easy for you to find the projects or files or contacts that you're looking for. So just bear in mind that that's there. And of course, we have your little avatar up here on the right. Again, we'll look at account and company settings later, but just so you know that that is where you'll go for any of that sort of account-based stuff. And then we have your top navigation bar here. So just very quickly, home is going to bring you back to where we are now. Projects gives you your full list of projects and takes you to basically your project pipeline. So we'll dive into that right after this. Your contacts tab as you might imagine, is where you will find and input your contacts. So really great if, again, you're kind of new to HoneyBook and you already have a list of contacts that are in your Rolodex or that you're working with on projects. You can just throw them all in here individually with this Add New Contact button, or even better, if you have that list as a CSV, so just get them all in there in one fell swoop, and then you can easily search for them, filter them with a few different things, and find those folks that you're looking for there. And then we also have this Tools tab. Now, there is a lot going on in here. I'm not going to dive into every single one of these right now. We are, like I mentioned, going to go over templates a little bit at not the end, but in a couple sections, we'll look at templates. But I will take this time to plug the fact that we do have what we call our HB 102 webinars on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And one of them on Tuesdays is about contact forms and workflows. So that gives you a really cool sort of hookup and automation. But I also just encourage you guys to click through these, see what's available. Obviously, this is where you get to your bookkeeping, calendaring, reporting. So click through here so you know what's around and so you know how to kind of get where you're going and what is at your disposal. All right, so now let's talk about projects. I'm gonna hop into our projects pipeline here. All right, what are projects in HoneyBook? I know that's kind of an ambiguous term in life. In HoneyBook, what it means is when we refer to a project, we refer to basically the container that holds everything related to a project or an event or a job, or again, whatever you sort of call it, something going on with a particular client. So everything in HoneyBook will start with a project. Now, we saw our contacts tab. You can import your contacts separately. That's sort of a different thing. But if you want to start emailing with a contact or sending them a file, you are always going to start with a project. So if a new lead comes in, you create a project. If you have a project or like an event that you're currently working on when you're just starting HoneyBook, you'll create a project and take it from there. So this, like I said, that's sort of the foundational element from which everything else is built in HoneyBook. So what you're looking at right now is your project pipeline. And this gives you that sort of bird's eye view of where all of your projects are in the scheme of things. So really kind of keeps you organized. So you have a sense of sort of where your business stands at the moment and where all of your projects are. Over here, we have your active projects bucket. So that's what I'm in right now. This is basically just everything that I'm working on at the moment. So I can sort any of these by just clicking on the column header if I want to organize that in whatever way I want. If I ever need to like delete a project or archive a project, which will basically take it out of my pipeline and put it over in this bucket, but not delete everything entirely. We also have our bulk actions feature, which allows me to do that with a bunch of them at once. So that's great. That's a new addition for us. But then what we're looking at as we sort of go from left to right here, again, is your project pipeline. And each of these represents a project stage. And project stages are essentially just where your project is in its life cycle. Fairly self-explanatory, but we really try to break it out for you, again, so you can have that sort of organization. So all projects will always start in the inquiry stage. So you might hear us refer to inquiries as their basically kind of own separate entity, but essentially what it is, it's just a project that hasn't had any action taken on it yet. So whether that's something that's come in from your contact form automatically on your website or something that you created yourself, they'll always start in this first inquiry stage. Now, the cool thing about this pipeline in HoneyBook is that we'll actually automatically push your projects through almost all of these stages based on actions that you take or that your client takes. So for example, we have our project in the inquiry stage. If I open that project and email my client, it's automatically going to move to the follow-up stage. Then when I send a proposal or any other file type, it's automatically going to move to proposal sent. When that comes back signed, proposal signed, paid, planning, etc. So we're going to push that through for you so that you don't have to manually be like, okay, like what stage is this project in? I don't remember, blah, blah, blah. We'll just do almost all of that on your behalf. So we can sort of see how this is getting us that great organization bird's eye view. Obviously, though, not everyone's business is going to have these exact stages in here. You can also customize this pipeline to suit your needs. We have this customize button up here in the right. So what this will allow me to do is, so we do have these stages that we just saw. Now these are, give you a little sense of where things are. We have these little kind of tool tips there. Now these ones are static. They're static because we do have those automations attached to them, right? So the HoneyBook system will know, okay, when this happens, I need to move it to this next stage. But you can add up to 10 additional stages to your pipeline if you'd like. So if you always know that after the follow-up, the next thing that you do is schedule a meeting, all you need to do is click that customize button, click into any of these sort of add a stage, give it a nice little name, use this 6-dot icon. This is the drag and drop. Whenever you see that in HoneyBook, it means you can sort of rearrange things. So I click it, drag it, and then you can see I can just kind of plop it wherever into that pipeline I need. So I can always delete that if I want or move it around again. But once I save this, you'll see that my pipeline has updated and I can now manually move a project into that stage. So you will need to manually move projects into the stages that you add, since HoneyBook probably doesn't know exactly when you're going to want things in there, but it does make life much easier, and you can sort of, again, personalize it to however your business works. So as we just saw, we can, of course, move stages manually too. We also see this little 3-dot icon here for the first time, sort of a ubiquitous symbol in HoneyBook that means there's something under there. So if I need to assign this project to a teammate or want to refer a vendor or delete it, in this case, that's what this little 3-dot menu will allow me to do. So that is the overview of the pipeline. All that in mind, now that we know sort of how projects move, let's create one. Let's do that. Excuse me. So I'm going to click on this new button up here in the top right corner. This gives me a couple other little shortcuts too, so I can add a new client from here if I want. I can create a new invoice. Now again, since all files do need to be associated with a project, again, projects are that foundational element. So if I do create a new invoice from here, it will request that I either attach it to an existing project or create a new one. But if we're just starting with the project itself, I'm going to create a new project. So when I'm creating a new project, it's going to request a few pieces of information from me. So first of all, we'll want to give this project a title. And this can be whatever you want, but it is customer facing, so don't make fun of them or anything. Make sure it's professional. So we'll call this our little project title. Then we can decide what the project type is. Now, these can be customized. Obviously, not all of you are going to be working anniversary parties, corporate events, rehearsal dinners. So I'll show you at the end where we can go to personalize these however you want. You can edit them. You can delete all the things that are in there and add your own, whatever you want that's specific to your business type. So we'll say this is a corporate event. Then any other project details that I have. Now, obviously, best practice is to throw in as much as you can off the top, but you can always edit this later. Even the project title and type, you can edit later if you need. So this is in, Indiana. We can give it a date. Again, great to do that off the bat if you have that. A start time if it's an event. Budget, guests, again, sort of some of these are more event-based, but you don't need to fill these in if it's not an event you're working. Time zone, and then the lead source, which is also customizable. So this is a great way. We actually have a report that will break down where you're getting your projects and your leads from. So you can customize these lead sources to however your business sort of comes in and get a good sense of where that's all coming from. So maybe this came from Yelp, sure. All right, I click next, and now it's going to ask me to add a participant. So participants in HoneyBook are created objects. And essentially, once you add a participant to a project, that participant is going to be the person that gets all of the communication you send through that project. So any emails and any files that you send are going to go to whoever's email address you add here. You can add more than one participant, and in that case, all of them will get all of that communication. So I'm going to add her email address in here, add her name, fill in any other details that I have in here, whatever's relevant, and then I'm going to click Add. And congrats to me, I have just made a fully fledged project. So this pulls me into what we call our project workspace. Now, this is where I can start, mixing and mingling with my client and doing all the things that HoneyBook allows me to do. So first of all, like I said, you can always come in and edit things if you need. So I can click this title to edit the project title if I want. I can click this project details button to come and revise any of this stuff that I already set up. Below that, we see those participants. So the first one is me as a project creator. Then we have that participant we just added, and then we can add any other ones that we want. Then we have a couple tabs down here. So first of all, we have this activity tab. Now, when you start going back and forth with your client via email or sending those files, everything is going to be tracked in this activity feed. And if your client responds to any of those emails, it'll go right back into this feed as well. So for example, click on this little message box right here, that opens up just kind of a standard email composer. I can email my client right through HoneyBook. So I can, throw in a subject, edit my email, do some kind of standard email formatting stuff. I can add attachments here if I want to send them images or other PDFs or anything else that I want to send over, I can attach here. This is also the first instance that we're seeing of templates. So this is going to pull up my email templates since I'm sending an email. So these are all things that I've already added to my HoneyBook template section. So I can really easily just drop language in here that I've crafted in advance. I don't need to copy and paste. I don't need to remember, what I've sent over and over. I can just pull in that template, make any edits that I want, and then I can send that off. And so this is going to go right to that email address, wafflegal@gmail.com. She's going to receive it as a standard email. And if she responds to me, it's going to come right back into this activity feed. And I can also see if she's opened it with this little red/unread eyeball right there. We do also have this files tab, which we'll look at once we do create a file, because right now it's pretty much empty. We don't have anything in there. A couple other things that you can do in your project before we create a file. Over here, you have your sort of project options toolbar. So you can manually change the stage of the project here. If you have a team member you want to loop into these communications, you can just quickly click on their icon and add them. You can add some tasks, some notes, apply a workflow manually. So a couple other things that you can do in here. Then we have this big bright turquoise new file button. So when you're creating or you want to send a new file of any kind, you will start here, click on that. So again, I'm not going to go through creating all of these, but just so we know what we have. Timelines in HoneyBook allow you to, as you might imagine, create sort of a day of timeline for an event. So this is great for planners or anyone that does sort of event-based stuff. You can create that timeline so that everyone is on that same logistical page, send that over to your client, any other vendors that you're working with, so everyone knows what's going on. Questionnaires, also pretty self-explanatory, allow you to send a set of questions to a lead or a client that you're currently working with to sort of streamline the collection of project information. So you might say, how many guests are you having? What's the name of the bride's mother's aunt? Whatever you want, you can have questions, create them and send them off to your clients, again, for that sort of easy info collection. Brochures are not new unto themselves, but did just get a major facelift. Really encourage you to check. Super cool now. But these allow you to, they're built to showcase your services, essentially. So you can plop in your services that you offer, any different packages that you have, and your client can actually review them and select the things that they're interested in without committing to anything. So it's like a standard brochure, a paper brochure, just in a fun, cool electronic format. Contracts, we know these too, allow you to put in that sort of nitty-gritty service information and collect an electronic signature from your client, legally binding. Invoices, we know these, allow you to itemize what you're billing for and create a payment schedule for your client so they know exactly what to expect, what is due and when. And they can also make their payment directly through that file. Drumroll, please. We have proposals. These are probably the most popular file in HoneyBook, and they're kind of unique to HoneyBook. They are a combination of an invoice and a contract. That is all they are. So if you send a proposal, you do not need to send an individual invoice or an individual contract, because this will get it all done in one fell swoop. So proposals are absolutely great for minimizing that back and forth if you know that someone is ready to book. If you have that person that's like, cool, I want to get you a signature and I want to put it down my deposit, you're going to send that proposal. If you have someone that isn't ready to sign but putting down a deposit, that'd be your invoice, or sign without a payment, that would be a contract. But for both, we're going proposal. So I'm going to start by creating one of these. So again, we can sort of see what those invoices and contracts do look like, because all of those are kind of rolled up into this proposal. So whenever we're creating any new file, it's going to give us a couple different options. This is another instance of those templates coming into play. So instead of starting from absolute scratch, I can just start with something like a framework of something that I've created before. Maybe I always send, a similar set of items together, and then my contract is always the same. So I can just start off that template that I've already created. Again, we'll look at where and how to create those templates in a little bit. So I can start from a template, can start from a recent file if I've sent a few already, or I can start from scratch. Now, the cool thing about either recent file or template is that basically what that will do is just create kind of a copy of that template or file, so that any edits you make to it are just specific to the project you're working within now, and it won't actually reflect on that original template or that original file. So again, just kind of creating that copy. But I'm going to start from scratch so we can really see what this looks like. So new file, General rule of thumb, almost everything you see in HoneyBook is clickable / editable. Really click around, see what you can do. So first off, you can edit that file name if you want. We have our header here, so I can edit my little logo, delete that if I want, or change it, change the file header, title, change the image if I want. So this little background image, I can pull from my library, which is stuff that I've uploaded in advance, and we'll look at where to do that again in a little bit, or upload something on the fly here. I like this one for some reason, so we'll change that. And again, even if I started with a template or a recent file, any edits that I make here will only be reflected in this new file. Now, we start on these, basically the invoice portion of the proposal. So the invoice portion is that itemized section and the payment plan. So when we're adding items to a file, an invoice or a proposal, a couple things that we can do. Always going to start by clicking Add New Item. And then it's going to pull up a lot of different options. So I have sort of my frequently used items here at the top. So these are basically just like individual items that I've added to things in the past. And then if I scroll down a little, I will see those package templates. Again, another instance of templates coming into play. These are things that I've already added into my HoneyBook account, and we will look at how to do that in a bit. So I'm going to just drop in this platinum package. So as we can see, instead of needing to individually add all of these items that are associated with this package that I send, it all dropped in there for me. So I don't need to do that one by one. However, since it is a template and this has created a copy, I can edit any of this that I need. So I can click into this to edit the item names. I can edit the descriptions, make those as, built out as I want. I can use the 6-dot icon again to drag and drop things around. Change the images on anything, delete things with my little trash can icon, and of course I can change the prices. If I'm pricing this a little differently for someone, I can just head up to this pricing section and update that to whatever that might be. Now we see here that we have all these individual line items that are priced at 0, and we've priced it kind of as a whole here. So when you're doing packages, you can do one or the other. So I priced this one as a whole, and all these line items are at 0. But I can also make this 0 and price these out individually to give me a little bit more control. So I'll look at how to do that in the template section in a bit. But let's also do a couple other types of item adds. New item, click into my item name again. I'm going to scroll down just past my packages here, and this is going to bring me to my full item bank. So whenever I add a new item, which we'll look at in a sec, whenever I add a new item to an invoice or a proposal that gets sent, it will automatically be added to my item bank here so that I can really easily pull from that. And I can also just search and find that item that I'm looking for. Or if I have a brand new item that I want to add that's not in my item bank yet, all I have to do is just type in the name. Maybe I have a brand new ice sculpture of a, let's see, what haven't I done yet? Crocodile. Maybe there's a Louisiana wedding. So we can add this brand new item. Obviously, this isn't in my item bank yet. So if I'm adding something new, I just type in that name there and click the plus button. Pretty self-explanatory. Then can edit the image if I want, edit the price here. Maybe they want to. And then you'll see that in the total section here, everything sort of automatically recalculates for me. Now, the other thing to note is we have this tax box here. So if I check that, for any items that have tax associated, you'll see a tax line item add itself to that total section. And if I just click on that rate, I can update that to whatever works for me. I can also throw in a dollar amount for a discount, knock $100 off because I'm a nice gal. And again, we can see everything recalculate. So then we have our payment schedule, and this is where you can determine how and when you want your client to pay. It's going to start with 2. So this breaks down into 2 different payments, and it has divided itself equally. So that is one of the options for these amounts we have up here. So we see that if I add another payment, since everything is dividing equally, it automatically does that calculation for me. But we do have a few other options. So I can click into that amount field. Again, we have that divide equally option. We can also do percentages if we wanted to do that. And that would recalculate for me. Or I can just do a custom amount. So maybe I know that I always have like a $500 deposit off the bat. I can add that as a custom amount, and then since these are set to divide equally, that will calculate for me. Similarly, in that when field, this is going to be based on in most cases, it's going to be based on when you send the invoice and or when the project is happening. So you can do fixed dates too, but if we do like the invoice date, for example, it's just going to pull in whatever date it is that I actually send this invoice. So today, maybe due date number 2, I want midway between when I send the invoice and when the project is actually set to occur. So the project due date, so let's select midway. And then maybe payment number 3, I could do a fixed date if I know the project's happening. But if maybe that project isn't quite set in stone, I'm not sure exactly when that due date is going to be, I can do a custom date of 1 week after the project date. But you can see I can do it before, after, or after the invoice has been sent. So lots of options here in the way of setting this up for whatever works for you. Now, the one other thing I will note, actually, I know I added items here in this in the items section, but if you do like charge hourly, you can just add an item that's, hourly rate. Have this, say this is hourly rate here, or hourly rate's $100 an hour, and I'm doing 8 hours. We can do that too. So it doesn't need to be like physical items. It can always be services or hourly charges too. So then we have our contract. So the contract section of the proposal. I'm not going to go too deep into this right now since we're going to look at contracts when we create the template. But as you can see, this is where I drop in all of my service information. We will have some templates in there. I think at least one example template in HoneyBook when you do sign up. So you can feel free to use that language or use your own, copy and paste whatever you've been using. And again, if you do add it as a template, you can use that over and over. And then one thing I will note, which I will look at how to actually do in the template section, but we have these little dotted lines. So what these are our custom fields, our contract fields in HoneyBook. So we have these ones set to automatically pull in some project information. So I don't need to go through and say, okay, who is the client? Leslie. Okay, what's my website? My website. What's the email? I don't need to fill this in. They don't need to fill this in. It's just going to automatically pull from the information that I have in my project. Now, again, I'll show you how to do that in the template section, but you can also use these to collect info from them. So if I wanted them to make sure that they initial a section before they sign, I can set that up too. I want to direct your attention to this teeny tiny over here. This is what we call our file drawer tab. You'll see this a lot in HoneyBook. It means there's something under there. Click it. There's always going to be something fun. So first of all, if I need to start from somewhere else, maybe I want to start over, but start from a different template, I can do that. Or this options section allows a lot of different things. I can print this file if I need. I can choose to turn on gratuity if I want my client to add a tip or have them give them the option. I can choose how they pay. So through HoneyBook, they have the options of credit card, bank transfer, or both. So in this case, they'd be able to choose which one they wanted, but you can also choose one or the other. I can turn on auto pay, which would mean that when my client did input that payment information, it would automatically charge them on the dates that I set up in that payment schedule. Or I can turn on file expiration. So if I want to really make sure that they attend to this in the next 2 weeks, and after that the file will expire, I can set that up too. Now, if I scroll down to the bottom, we see that we have pulled in some contract signature lines. So there's one for me and one for my client. Now, if I've added additional participants to this project, I can add them as well. Or I can just do one participant or the other. It doesn't need to be everyone, but I can add everyone if I want. And finally, before I move on, I would like to direct your attention to our client view. This is on every file type. You can always click client view to get a sense, not just a sense, but exactly what your client will see. So this is what your client will see when they get this proposal. Scroll past their services, see their payment schedule. You can even continue to the contract and even continue to the payment screen to see what that will look like for them. Click exit when you're finished. And when you're ready to roll, you can click review email. That's also at the bottom of the file. And then you can edit this as you see fit. We have our templates coming into play again. If I want to change that, I can add any other PDFs or any other files that I want to send with my little attachment. And then send that off to Leslie. This is going to go right to her email. She's going to get a beautiful little email with a beautiful little link that is going to take her right to that proposal where she can make that payment and add that signature. Now we can see in this activity feed that this is being tracked. I know exactly what I've been doing with this client. Again, we have our little unread button. Once she reads it, that will change. We can also see that our stage has automatically popped itself over to proposal sent. We have our files tab now, which is going to have something in it, which is great. Since I have sent this file, it will be in here. Any files that I draft will come into here. So this is basically your file drawer. We have our cute little timeline here at the bottom where you can see where this proposal is in the scheme of things. And then we also have our payments tab, which was not there before. Since we sent a file that had payments associated, you'll be able to click into this to really quickly see what's going on with those payments. So when she makes this first payment of $100, the status will change depending, and you'll see in this sort of empty column here an estimated deposit date. So if you're ever like, all right, my client told me that they made their payment yesterday, where the heck is it? You can just come back to this payment section and check this out because it will have that date that you should expect that deposit to come in. Now, finally, before I head out of this project, I want to note two things about a file that has payments associated. If you ever need to issue a refund to a client, hopefully it doesn't happen often, but it might, or if you need to mark a payment as paid that came in another way than through HoneyBook. So if they paid with cash or check or Venmo or whatever, if they paid another way, you can mark that as paid in HoneyBook. You can't collect it through HoneyBook, but you can mark it as paid. So for either of those, refund or mark as paid, I'll head back to my file that contains the payment, scroll down to my payment plan, and now you'll see this little 3-dot icon again. Again, ubiquitous in HoneyBook for something else under there. So clicking on that will allow me to mark, since no payment has actually come in, I don't have any other options, but I can mark this as paid, click when that payment came in, and mark that as paid. Now your client will see that that is marked as paid. They're like, okay, cool. I know that they know that payment came in. I'm just responsible for these next two. This is also really handy if you are in the middle of some projects that have already received some payments. When you start HoneyBook, you can create those full invoices so you know you can track all of the payments associated with that project, but you don't need to collect that first one through HoneyBook. So even before you send this invoice or proposal off to someone, you can add that payment into the payment schedule, but just mark it as paid and then send it off. So it's a great way to keep track of everything when you're first getting going and kind of in the middle of stuff. It did come in through HoneyBook. This 3-dot icon here would have an additional little option of refund. And you can refund a full or partial amount. So if you ever need to do that, God forbid, this is how you would do it. All right, that was a whirlwind tour of creating a project, creating a proposal, and sort of what happens after. Now I want to make sure that we get to our templates because they are a very crucial part of getting started in particular and really setting yourself up for success moving forward with HoneyBook. So to get to my templates, I click on Tools and then Templates. So as we see here, there are lots of options. So basically every file type you can create those templates of to really start off of. So if I check out this proposal template, if I just threw this into a new project, it would have this basic package as the thing I'm charging for. It would automate these dates and amounts for the payment schedule and have this contract. So real-time savers. But what I want to look at are actually creating packages, invoices, and contracts. Since those combine a lot of other things. This is also, of course, where you'll go to add those email templates and all the other file types. But again, want to focus on those top three. Really best practice when you're starting in HoneyBook is to create your package templates first. So these are the pricing templates, basically like pricing packages that you might use over and over. They might have lots of items associated with them, like the one that we dropped into that proposal. It had a bunch for that premium package. They might just be a sort of, one line. They don't need to have a bunch of items associated. They couldn't just be individual if you want, but it allows you to have that place to start from. And when you already have those packages built out, going to make life much easier when you're creating your invoice, proposal, and brochure templates. So start with packages. Alrighty, so I click into the file, the template type I want to create, pulls me into whatever that kind of first template is. Click my file drawer icon again, where I remember that that's there. It's going to show me all the packages that I have in there and also give me the option to add one. So this is whenever I'm creating any new template, that's sort of the process. File drawer tab, add template. All right, want to make sure that I title my template. This applies across the board. Always want to make sure that you title it so you know what you're getting when you apply it to something. So I'll title that, and then this is very similar to what we saw when we were adding items to the proposal. You can edit the titles of things, you can edit the descriptions, and then if this is a package that has associated with it, I can just start adding these as items and then continue clicking add new item until this is built out. Add it. Again, it pulls from my item bank, so I can choose from those if I want, but maybe I just want to add that from scratch. Drop, image icon again, can add this. So really customize this to be as beautiful, as in-depth, or as just kind of to the point as you want. We have our quantity field if we want to fill that in, and then we also have our price option. Now, on our template that we used in the proposal, we saw that priced as a whole. So that was sort of the overall price that we could edit if we wanted, but it didn't really give us much granularity into the actual items. So if I'd rather do that, I will leave price at 0 and price these out individually. Maybe our event service is 3,000. All right, so very basic package, but we've added a couple different items in here. So now I want to create an invoice that incorporates this package into it. So I'm going to head back. We call these our little breadcrumbs, so I can head back to my template section by clicking templates. So whenever you see that little line of stuff at the top, you can kind of click back to where you were. I'm going to click on invoice, which again pulls me into whatever that kind of top invoice is. File drawer tab, add template, name. We're sensing a theme here. There's a pattern. So maybe this is my basic package invoice. And again, we've seen a lot of this in the proposals already, right? I can update the icon here. I can edit the image. Anything that I might use over and over can put there. And then I can add items, again, similar to that proposal. But now I want to add that package that I just created. Now with the price at 0, reason being, if I click on that, it has these priced out individually like we set up, but the overall price is 0. However, we can see that things automatically total for me. Awesome, don't need to do that. And this does give you a little bit more granularity if in individual projects you want to remove certain line items, whatever the case is. So whatever works best for you there. So I can continue building this out, adding however many items are associated with, send versions of over and over. And payment plan, same thing. So again, since so much of this is dynamic, like this divide equally and percentage are very dynamic, template to a project where then I edited on the basic package. If I have these, this payment plan will automatically for me, right? Or even if I have that 500 deposit off the bat, I can do that too and build what I want. When, again, very similar, since all of this is dynamic, you can, it can automatically calculate when that invoice date is, and when that project date, or the week after project, whatever it is. So this can automatically do all of that for you, so you don't have to do it. Makes life much easier. All right, we've created our invoice template. We can see how easy that was, right? So let's finish these templates off with a contract. So again, file drawer, add template, but I'm just going to start from this one right here. Now we can really see these custom fields that are in here, these kind of grayed out empty boxes. So these are sort of, I think, the coolest feature of contracts. Now, obviously, you can add whatever legalese you want. You can, format in a whole bunch of different ways, whatever works for you. But I think these are the super duper time saver because as we saw in that one that we sent off already, it pulled in that information for me. I didn't have to do that. So to add these, maybe this project date. So this is something that will pull from the project details. And maybe secondly, I want client initials, which I want them to fill out. So I'll add my little descriptor, put my mouse where I want it to be, and click this teeny tiny little custom fields bar here. I can name this field. So this one, in this case, I want this to pull info from. Since this is something that I wanted to pull information from, we have all of these pull info from options, which give me all these project things, client-related stuff. So anything that I have, I can pull info from. And that's what we saw in that proposal we sent. So I'm going to choose project date because I always wanted to pull in whatever. Field value, I will leave blank since that is not something I will need to touch. It will do that for me. And then I can choose how the client can/should interact with this. In this case, I don't want them to edit this. It's going to pull from project details, so I will say they cannot edit. But initials, I want them to have to fill that out. So I'm going to say initial name here. So I'll just add a new one. It doesn't need to be associated with the project. It can be, again, bride's aunt's mother's name, whatever you want. Just add that custom field name. You'll leave the field value blank since that's something that they're going to fill in. And in this case, they either can edit it, which would give them the option to, or they must fill, which is what I want for this, because I really want to make sure that they initial this. So choosing must fill will mean that if they try to sign that contract without filling out that field, the contract will say, no, 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 and it will bump them back up to out. Now, I will note that at the bottom here, you do not have any contract lines that pull in. We don't know who's signing this contract yet. It's a template. So that's why they're not there. Don't freak out. As soon as you do apply it to a project, it will automatically pull in you or whoever the contract owner or the project owner is, and then the participants. So not to worry there. Again, whirlwind tour of templates, but I really want to make sure we have a couple minutes for our account settings. So to get there, I'm going to head to my profile, start with my account. So this is where you'll go to edit your own sort of contact info, change your picture, update your password, and edit your security phone number. Do make sure that this is in here because we'll use this for two-factor authentication when you're making sensitive changes like bank account or password. It's that thing where they like request to send you a code or call you with a code so that you input that into HoneyBook, really, so we can make sure it's you. Then our company settings, which is this tab here, same place I'd get to by clicking Profile, Company. Company brand is your first tab. This is where you can edit some company-based contact info, edit your company name, your brand information, very important. So you can add your logo in a couple different formats and change the sort of thematic color, which you can add a hex code or just choose one. So we can see sort of how that reflects on files here. So that's all facing, and we match the aesthetic of, and similarly brand imagery. So this, if I click add images, is going to take me to that file library that we saw when I tried to change that image header. So I can upload any images that I have off the bat, get them in there. Of course, I can do things on the fly as well. It doesn't need to be pulling from here. Just makes life a little easier. And I can also upload files if I have like PDFs or other things that I send regularly. I can just throw them in here for easy access. I'm going to head back to company settings to finish this off. Last thing in this company brand section that I want to note at the bottom is the time zone. If you are doing like anything event-based or anything with times associated with it, and you're on Eastern and you're set to Pacific, might get a little wonky, so make sure that this is set up correctly in your brand section. Next up, integrations. So you can throw in your social accounts if you want, and you can integrate with your Gmail address. Now, the big difference with integrating your Gmail address is that any communication you send through HoneyBook is going to appear to your customer as coming from your Gmail address. If they respond, it will still come back to HoneyBook. If you do not integrate Gmail, that is totally fine. It's basically the same process for you and your client. So it's really just sort of how you want to present yourself. If you don't integrate, it will still be coming from your name and from your business. It will just, the sender will just be mailman at HoneyBook. Next up, your team section. So this is where you can invite your teammates. You can choose what level of permissions they have, which are all described here for you to check out, and some sort of team-based notifications here at the bottom. Preferences. This is where you'll go to edit those lead sources and project types. So company settings, preferences, and then I just click this edit button. Can edit, delete, add as many as I want. Notifications, so you can tell, when you want to be notified of what. And your actions. So if you ever are like, my client got an email, I don't know where it came from. First thing to check, actions, because these are going to be those automated emails to your clients, which I can turn off or on at my discretion. For example, most people love to have these payment reminders on so they don't have to remind their clients. They will automatically get emails like 7 days before, a day before, and a day after, things like that. You can also turn on any of these other things and edit the emails associated. But if you want full control, you can turn all these off. And then finally, your bank details, very important, very straightforward. You click add bank account, throw in your bank account information. As soon as that's in there, you can immediately start accepting payments and they will deposit directly into your bank account, making life much easier. Now, we've gone a little bit over what I wanted to do, but I want to make sure that I address this question mark icon. Important things. First of all, our help center. This is how you get there. There's also help.honeybook.com. We have articles on every feature. We have videos on almost every feature. We have how-tos. We have troubleshooting. We have what things look like for your clients. I really encourage you to check this out if you have any questions. But If the help center does not help, we also have this message us option. This is how you get in touch with our absolutely delightful concierge team. There are their beautiful faces up there. You click new conversation and send a message right to them. We are available 7 days a week at these hours, so feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. So in the last couple minutes here, I will just take one more minute to plug our HB 102 webinars. So you can head back to that product education page that you used to register for this webinar, which I'm going to post right in here. You can register for a webinar on the contact form and workflow. That's on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, or one on our brochures, which is right after this today. It's every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. And that one's super cool because it's going over our new brochures and what they'll look like for your clients. And we're always looking to add further courses. So if you have feedback on that, do keep an eye out for that survey that's coming tomorrow and let me know what would be helpful. And then finally, again, click this question mark icon for any questions that you have. You can get them answered either through that help center or from our wonderful, wonderful concierge team who is available 7 days a week. So sounds like our questions have run dry. So I'll let everyone go a couple minutes early, but thank you all so much for coming and for all of the energy. I loved this from beginning to end. So thank you all again for joining and have a wonderful rest of your day and week. Bye guys.